Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Arwin, Michael, Neil, Paul, The Hammer, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Yo, yo, yo.
Good morning, morning.
Good afternoon.
Morning.
Shutty bow.
Hello, good to have you all. Any evidence of what haven't we done for a while? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What's that?
It's not my claim.
What makes if you watch sports, it's what makes the golf ball go in the hole.
Oh, so you're saying what keeps me on the ground?
But is it
You need
still
to
claimed
observe
that
it
gravity is scientific, right? I mean, they say it's scientific, like, oh yeah, it's part of science. But I mean, do ballers actually still really claim that it is passable through the scientific method?
Or when it's so ingrained in society, it's in everything.
Of course, I get that, but I mean, it's not really thought of as science, right? It's like people just think of it more like, oh, it's just the law. It's Newton's law, like a natural law, right? And no, it isn't, of course. But is it really thought of as a scientific method-based process?
When you say scientific method-based, right, most general Joe normies don't know what the scientific method is. They've forgotten. They might have been taught it in school, but they've long since forgotten, and now they just think when you hear the word science, it means proof, sunshine. Okay, right, so he said science. Okay, gravity, right, that's definitely proven facts and true, right? Well, there's obviously the science for gravity, is what they would say. Now, you're phrasing it carefully, and I don't not appreciate that. I do appreciate that. But the average Joe still thinks that science for gravity, that's the bottom line here, Arwin. Now, in a way, you're carefully phrasing it, but also showing your detachment from how far away you are from general Joe normie, who thinks the science for a force that holds him to the ground and stops him floating off into the sky vacuum. Space. So when we ask for scientific evidence of gravity, it's because originally, prior to us being reminded by Quantum Eraser what science really was, it was asserted that the whole body of science proved we were on a ball, and gravity was amongst those claims.
Yeah, I remember the body of science. Yeah.
Well, he's missing in action.
Hey, Chocolate.
Well, before QE came onto the scene, Nathan,
Morning,
were
guys.
you aware of the scientific method?
No. I had been taught it at school like everybody. But no. I know how you mean. No, was I consciously aware? I use these terms consciously, and QE always laughs at me. It's like, well, what's the alternative? Unconsciously aware? You'd be asleep. But anyway, I mean, at the forefront of my mind was not cause and effect reasoning based on systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis after observing natural phenomena. No, Neil. Jokerman says, Nathan, would you mind if I come on the panel? Of course not. Would I mind? It's an open panel. Anybody can come on. You certainly have to pay to join. So no, the link's in the info box. If you join, yeah. Great. Wonderful. Lovely to see you. Thank you for the super chat.
Neither was I. Hold on, neither was I, and I don't think anybody was. Because even when you explain it now, some people say that's QE's method.
No?
No, who's the some people? These
Hold on. So what?
But aren't that just
I agree.
anti-flat earthers
Look
that
to
say
Neil.
that?
Hello. So what, Neil? Some people say it's Quantum Eraser's method. Okay, they're idiots. So what?
I agree. So what? That's the scientific method, correct?
Yeah.
So what's the problem?
You tell
I
me.
agree, so what? But you bringing it up.
You're asking
What?
me. What's going on here? You're right, cute chocolate. What's going on? You brought it up.
I'm saying that's the how you explained it. That is the scientific method, but
Neil,
nobody knew
Neil.
it until QE came on the scene. Isn't that convenient?
No, there's a deviation between your average Joe normie who may reach high school or even low college level education and not be privy to the scientific road that a student would follow, with that road knowing or assumed that you'd know at step one what the scientific method was. Therefore, it's almost unspoken. Not because it's being hidden, but because by the time you get to university level, if you're on a physics course of any description, you're expected to know what the scientific method is. The cause and effect reasoning, the systematic experimentation, the validation that you can offer to a supposition of cause when studying natural phenomena is what you'd expect to know that if you're at a university, right? So therefore, I mean, I only know that because I asked Quantum Eraser, why is it so difficult to find a citation? It's like, well, duh. By the time you're at the point that you're varying and manipulating suppositional cause and effect reasoning in your fingertips, right, and coming up with stuff that develops into semiconductors, you're a bit beyond the rudimentary understanding that we disseminate here. Let's not get above our stations. While we deal with dipshits and idiots who say, oh, it's Quantum Eraser's method. All right, okay. Yeah, meanwhile, on the other side of the fence, there's the intellectual academia who are using this method to benefit humanity and advance us. So which side of the fence do you want to fight with? You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. When did it come to a point where, okay, how can I phrase this? Where everybody thought that, like the solar system and where we live and on this globe, when were we duped to believe that was science?
Next day after
And
you were
that
told what the
all of
method was.
science knows?
The next day, in the same classroom. Could have been in the same lesson.
As you were sitting there in your class with a magical spinning water ball on the cover of your textbook, right? And inside that very book, you've got the scientific method, and then the next chapter after that, you'll have here's what's going on Venus, and it's all called Earth science, right? Like that's how it was in my classroom. I had Earth science textbooks.
Precisely.
Yeah, me too.
geology?
But then, hold on. But then, how did it go to the scientific method where you observe a natural phenomena, first step, right? And then it turned to ask a question.
That's just science buddies. That's what we get parroted. That's not necessarily what you get taught in school at 5th grade level. You taught the method. But when you get to a 30-year-old guy or a 40-year-old guy or whatever year old guy or girl looks it up on YouTube, on Google, well, they get back first result is science buddies with ask a question. Or if you're watching a movie, and probably because the researchers writing the script have gone to science buddies first Google search result. So it's like common in pop culture. I hear it all the time. Ask a question. No, you as an actor playing a scientist to the public are going to say that, but it's wrong.
Oh, Nathan, I have something just niggling in me head. I can't get out of it. Can you use the scientific method by observing a phenomena, or does it have to be a natural phenomena? And this is bugging my head for some reason.
Okay. You already know the answer to the question that you're going to suppose with the reasoning and logic in the method if it's unnatural, aka synthetic. So you're saying if you have a synthetic phenomena, right? So let's say,
Well,
just hear me out. Let's say you pour one certain chemical into another certain chemical and show that it changes color. Yeah? Now, let's just say, for the purpose of this particular example, both of the chemicals are man-made chemicals. synthetic, synthesized. And the effect of mixing these two synthesized man-made chemicals is this color change phenomena that we observe in the test tube. Now, I've made this as synthetic as I possibly can, just for the sake of this example. Now, I started out by saying you pour one synthetic chemical into the other. Do you at this stage need to establish the cause when you caused it?
I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think my problem is I'm determining a phenomena as something that is observed using your natural senses, not necessarily.
That's all phenomena that's
man-made.
natural. Okay, it's only a phenomena if it's being observed to be occurring. So all naturally occurring phenomena must be observed phenomena, which is why gravity fits nicely into your question. Do we observe the natural phenomena of gravity with our eyes and feelings and senses? No, we do not. So there's no adherence to step one, observe natural phenomena. I mean, if you're going by the science buddy's scientific method, then ask a question. But that's not what you do to advance humanity and establish why things happen and why things work and how they work. That's down to seeing something occurring in nature and asking why it happened, as opposed to the very definition of the word synthetic, man-made. Well, if you know man made it, that's the cause. If you're trying to figure out what caused it, well, after a man made it, well, there's your cause. Why are you going through the method? You know what caused it. A man made it.
So all these parlor tricks are man-induced. So it's not a natural observed phenomenon if man
You've got to
caused
be more
it, correct?
specific. No, you've got to be more specific. If the phenomena is observed in nature and you're trying to induce it, and the experimental setup used to induce it by varying your presumed cause of the effect is what you're referring to, then no, because that's perfectly reasonable within an experimental setup to have man-made or synthetic items as part of the apparatus, but not as the independent variable or dependent variable.
I'm talking about Cavendish.
Cavendish is a specific example where you're creating an effect of mass being attracted to other masses that doesn't occur in nature. You don't observe that to happen anywhere ever. It doesn't happen anywhere ever. So they induce the effect with the apparatus. So the effect is conjured in the apparatus. So when you say, well, show me the natural phenomena of mass attracting mass. Here's my Cavendish balls I strung up. No. Show me it happening in nature. Don't induce it in your man-made gizmo. Because that's a synthetic effect that you've developed. Okay, you've got a synthetic effect. That's man-made effect. Because mass isn't attracting mass, as we well know. And so do the, out-of-date, replaced by quantum mechanics, old school Einsteinian gravity fraternity, or whatever you call them. Because all of they also realised that mass attracting mass was superseded by bending 4D space-time about 108 years ago. So it's been twice superseded, this notion of mass attracting mass. It doesn't. 73 people watching, please share the show. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, they can't. Not within their field anyway. Right? Because their entire field is based on presuppositions and they can never thread outside of it.
Good
From
answer.
within their field.
Wouldn't these that come under this term be natural phenomena?
Not really. In those particular fields, they have nothing but phenomena, actually, in most instances. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of stories that go along with them, but for the most part, there's plenty of phenomena. If you're talking about astronomy, right?
Yeah, but there's nothing to very manipulate, though. Well, not at this point, anyway. They're already assuming it's super far away so that they're not manipulating it. They might be able to, but they're not gonna because it doesn't fit their model.
You did a really good job a second ago, actually, Arwin, of phrasing that in respect to they can't put this through the method unless they start with presuppositions and begging the question fallacies in regards to radial values. And if John was here, I'm sure he'd be saying the same thing, but you summarised it really nicely a minute ago.
Well, yes, we do presuppose.
Because that's how models are made.
Oh, that's
Shut
funny.
up, Dr.
What-
Phil. Shut up,
Can I
Dr.
go back? Sorry, Chocolate. Can I just go back one step? Because I wanted to ask about Michelson-Morley, because my son came through with that, and now he's claiming that that was an experiment.
Okay. Were you around when we used to do the pink writing on the Globers when they weren't too terrified to come here and needed to blame a mute button?
Yeah, I was a listener.
Right. So what was the first question we'd ask when someone would come in and say, I've got an experiment, for example? I've got an experiment, Michelson-Morley. What would we say?
Natural observed phenomenon, please.
Perfect. Neil, you're a beautiful bastard. Right. Observe natural phenomena, please. Why? Because that's what you're trying to figure out. What caused that to happen? That is the observed phenomena. So observe natural phenomena. Once you've got that, you've got half of a hypothesis. Because a hypothesis is independent variable, your presumed cause of the effect. Dependent variable, the thing we ask for step one in the method. Observe natural phenomena, please. What's happening that you want to know the cause of? So, Michelson-Morley. Observe natural phenomena, please. I'm not asking you to do that. We'll have to leave it out there hanging. Your son's not here, let's be honest. But you know what I'm driving at. Just take him through the steps. Write it down. Okay, you're saying this is what's being studied. This is what's occurring in nature. What's your presumed cause of that effect? In other words, independent variable. And then you've got a full hypothesis. An if and then suppositional statement. If, independent variable, then the phenomena I'm studying. And then you test it. By varying your independent variable, as Anthony used to say. You wiggle it and you see if it causes it. And if you wiggle it and it causes it, you've validated it. If it doesn't, you still validate the null. Because alongside that suppositional statement of cause and effect, if and then statement, if A then B, you've also got the antithesis of that statement, which is the null. If A, the thing you're going to wiggle and vary to see if it causes the effect, then not B. No outcome, zero difference result, null, no difference. In other words, you don't induce the effect. So at the end of the experimental stage, you prove it caused the effect. When you wiggled it, it caused it. Or you prove it didn't cause the effect. You wiggled it and nothing happened. Null. Zero difference. Well, you
But that's
validate
what I
that
don't
null. You put a tick next to it, you prove it. So at the end of the empirical outcome is exactly that. You've got an empirical outcome. Because you can't have both be true at the same time. You can't have A cause B and not cause B. When you wiggle it, it either happens or it doesn't happen. So one of the two statements is true. That's why it's empirical. And the reason I've given that extra detail is to say it rounds back to the beginning of the statement so that we've just been discussing about how we get indoctrinated as kids. Because that empirical outcome is proof. This is proven at the end.